Well, now is the worst time to buy an electric vehicle. In fact, buying now could cost you thousands of pounds. Yet most people have no idea about what's about to happen to the electric vehicle market and how it's going to spill over to the wider car industry. Scary times, but it's not all doom and gloom, as I'm going to explain how you could bag yourself some massive discounts if you play your cards right. Greetings Titans, welcome to the big picture. I'm Dave, this is Dave Takes It On. I don't talk about it much on the channel, but I spent over a decade in new car sales with a number of different dealerships, selling brands such as Alfa Romeo, Mercedes, Citroën, Opel and Fiat. I became sales manager in two dealerships, one Fiat, one Citroën. So I actually do know what I'm talking about from years of practical experience. The only major change today is that normal business practices in the motor trade are far closer to fraud and crime than they were back in my heyday. Well, there are a few background facts you need to know about this latest scandal. Manufacturers have always offered incentives to salesmen to sell more cars or sell specific models during specific periods of time. In my day, Citroën and Fiat both paid salesmen bonus bonds direct from the manufacturer. They've long since been discontinued. They were like gift vouchers used at select stores. I received many thousands of pounds of them each year, and my home was furnished largely from Debenhams. I also pre-registered new cars on the specific instructions of the manufacturers as demos or service courtesy cars. In most cases, these were not really needed or justified, but they offered the dealer a bigger discount, so we could actually use them, then sell them on as pre-registered low-mileage demo car or courtesy car a short while later. Well, this brings me directly to finance. As sales manager, I was allocated a ration of cars, so a specific number and specific models each month. Cars were supplied totally free of charge for a short period of time. I think from memory it was about 1 or 2 months. If it was not sold by then, the dealership just began paying a monthly premium for as long as it remained unsold. So some dealerships themselves offered their salesmen incentives to clear these older cars as quickly as possible. Well, as an aside, most dealers were not desperately efficient in notifying the manufacturer that a particular car had been sold. It actually helped the business cash flow if they pocketed the money and just carried on paying the monthly premium for another month. Well, one of my jobs as new car sales manager in the late 70s, early 80s, I actually walked out of due to fraudulent overuse of this scheme. One dealer had two franchises, Fiat and Opel, both of them in Cornwall. He took this to a whole new level. He took personal charge responsibility for reporting all sales to the manufacturers in a timely manner, and for repeated months he just chose not to tell them. When the manufacturer began closing in, demanding to physically see these cars that I or my team knew we had sold, he tried to get us to lie during numerous on-site physical inspections, stating that sold cars were, well, they're really still in stock, just can't find them, or they're out on loan for the day, or my wife's got one. Well, I actually refused. I walked out and left. He ended up getting arrested. Well, sailing very close to the wind is not a new thing to Legacy Auto. Okay, back to the present. So what's happening? Well, this is all about to hit the mainstream press big time and could make Dieselgate look like a naughty schoolboy prank. My first clue was the contradiction between the reports of increasing EV car sales and increasing unsold EVs in dealers. Then came the new EV prices, which stood out like a new member at a nudist colony. Vauxhall Corsa E is today on the website priced at £32,445. It's an absolutely insane price when the same body shell Corsa with a petrol engine costs £19,635. Peugeot, Renault, Volvo, in fact most of the others, all had prices that stood out as just plain wrong. Why would people in large numbers choose to spend between 50 and 100% extra just to get the battery version? Well, some would for sure, but the majority would not. Well, that didn't pass the sniff test. And that explained the rise of leasing. If people won't buy your EVs, make it really attractive for them to lease them. But that asked the question, how did the leasing companies make any money? Things were beginning to raise red flags. Well, you cannot buy or lease a car directly from the legacy auto manufacturer. All of them sell through their dealers. And most of those dealers were once run by the manufacturer, but now they're mostly independent franchise dealers. So when Ford or Fiat claims to have sold a car, it's not sold it to a private or business customer, it's just sold it on to one of their dealers. Then when a dealer sells that car, it cannot show up as a new sale, that would be double dipping, but it does now appear on the government figures and the SMMT, the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, as a new car registration. Bit more digging and we discover a huge disconnect between new car sales, as reported by legacy auto manufacturers, and new car registrations when they appear as registered to use on the road. But the disconnect continues because almost all dealers report huge stocks of unsold EVs that nobody wants. Well, many have recently taken to refusing to accept any more from the manufacturers, even at the risk of losing the franchise. They've just got too many unsold EVs already, and they are having to pay for them, and they're struggling under a mountain of debt. Well, this stage did not look too serious, merely a disconnect. Figure just didn't tally. But many of my viewers took me to task in the comments section down below. Oh, by the way, please feel free to have your own comments. Just leave them down there, all are welcome. I was constantly being corrected. I stated that a new Corsa E costs $32,445, and they advised me they could actually go and buy one today, brand new on Auto Trader for under £20,000. So my search then moved to Auto Trader. Once this was the haunt of private buyers and sellers, but over the years it's become far more commercialised. I discovered that the only ones with any money are the manufacturers, so they began to offer brand new vehicles for sale on Auto Trader and also leased vehicles. Well, fair enough. It's a little different to an advert in a local paper. The more places you advertise, the more likely you are to reach a buyer. Then I noticed that many of them were pre-registered, many of them, and there were thousands. And then a flood of red flags all began waving at once. Well, first, if you just do an open search, there are thousands that state pre-registered, yet if you filter and search for pre-registered, there are only a few hundred. Where have all the rest gone? Are they just not being declared? Well, next was the mileage. So the average mileage is less than 10 miles. Now, in the trade, this is called delivery mileage. Driving it out the factory into a parking area, then loading onto a transporter, back off to the dealers, etc. But pre-registered means they've been registered by the dealer for use as a road-going car, like I used to register them for use as demo cars or courtesy cars. They were actually used, but these have never been used on the road. They only ever had delivery mileage. Then the dates, well, these were registered. It suddenly entered a whole league more serious. A number of these pre-registered EVs were 2022 and 2023 registered, still with 10 mile on the clock, so never driven. And that is definitely not normal. Then the date of registration, not the year, the date, looked very suspicious. In the UK, we have twice a year when we change the registration number plate. For example, a 24 plate model will have been registered on or after the 1st of March 2024, while a 74 plate is registered on or after the 1st of September 2024. And these are busy times for a dealer, March and September. Well, back in my day, I seem to remember it was January and August. By the way, it was changed because a number of dealers found themselves being called very inconsiderate for complaining about having to come in on New Year's Day every year to get rid of all these new cars that have been registered and customers queuing up, or for refusing to cancel taking their August summer holidays when the kids were off school. Now, these dates are important because the registration letters or numbers on your number plate affect the value when you come to sell it. Although both are built and sold in the same year, 2024, a 74 plate car will normally fetch more than a 24 plate car. And that difference can be about £1,000 extra. So I wondered why many of these were being pre-registered in July and August, even as late as the 28th of August, when just wait a couple of days, that would have increased its resale value by £1,000 or more. Who's got £1,000 to throw away like that just by registering a car a couple of days earlier? Well, I remember in my day, and it was a few years ago, but we used to have customers coming in 1 minute past midnight to pick up their brand new cars. We opened specially on those occasions when the number plate changed, and we would have a number of cars prepared, paid for, ready for collection, even in a small dealership like I ran in St Ives. In fact, being a close-knit community, we often took to delivering those new cars on trade plates the day before to our customers' homes with instructions, don't drive them till after midnight. And all this was because when the neighbours woke up and looked out of their window the next morning, the first thing they would see was the shiny new car with the new plate. Wow, talk about one-upmanship. So why would anyone register these cars in August and February and thereby reduce the resale value? Well, getting even worse, there were a number of pre-registered EVs for sale on Auto Trader where the photo section contained a caption stating, awaiting photo. Now in the trade, this was known as buy one, get 10 free. So if you advertise one specific car, once it's sold, the ad's no longer of very much use. You might get some subsequent calls, but you have to try and switch them to any models that you do actually have in stock, possibly a different model or colour, and not always successful. But if you do have 10 EVs for sale, all say the same model but different variants, colours or specs, then one advert without a photo of a specific car can keep finding buyers until you've got none left. Anyone ringing up would be asked what colour they wanted, and we always would reply, wow, you're in luck. That is exactly the colour we have. It's actually the last one. It's getting loads of interest. If you're interested, you better get down here quick. And you thought you got the bargain. Well, I read these adverts awaiting photos that the Auto Trader has to mean they have more than one single EV for sale. All of them pre-registered, all with just delivery mileage. The true number of pre-registered EVs for sale is now a total unknown. Could be 10 times, even 100 times as many. Who knows? Well, now in my mind, I combined these with the increasingly strict exhaust emissions targets our government set legacy manufacturers, alongside an increasing requirement to have a minimum percentage of new cars sold as EVs. The 2024 target is 22%. In plain English, 22% of cars sold must be EVs or they get fined. And the total fine is something like £15,000 per car under this target. And that is huge. But of course, always read the small print. It's not the sales that count. That could be altered by simply manufacturers forcing their dealers to take more EVs. No, what counted were registrations. And instantly, Legacy Auto saw the way around this scheme. In plain English, the dealer or manufacturer registers the unsold EV. It's free to do so, it's an electric car. It then goes round the back, parks it, locks it, and leaves it there. That now counts towards their percentage. Well, this is developing into a huge scandal that would make Dieselgate look tame. So who's affected? Now, I'm going to ask you to please watch or listen to this short section next, right to the end, or else I'm going to get an absolute avalanche of very angry comments. So first, this is in no way a reflection on EVs themselves. This video is dealing with what I believe to be the lies and cons and immoral, even illegal actions of legacy automakers who seem prepared to go to any lengths to make a financial killing. The majority of people will be absolutely fine with the majority of EVs, if only they'll go and try one for themselves. And also, not all EV manufacturers are involved. Okay, so the sales figures for legacy auto EVs in the UK and presumably all around the world have been falsified by seemingly all legacy auto manufacturers for many years, primarily, in my opinion, to con and lie the way into making others believe they were selling plenty of EVs and thereby avoid paying massive penalties that would, in all likelihood, have bankrupted them. Pay really close attention to two vital caveats. First, this only affects legacy auto manufacturers and their methods, not EVs themselves. Second, they actually do exactly the same with their ICE cars, including hybrids. In fact, it seems everything legacy auto is telling us about sales of EVs, hybrids and ICE cars and their finances is likely to be false and probably has been false for a very long time. Possibly since Dieselgate, or maybe before, we just didn't find out. Now, at the risk of extreme unpopularity, I'm going to reveal who isn't affected, who isn't doing this, who isn't lying to you, who gives you the accurate figures so that you, the buyer, gets an accurate overall picture. Don't shoot the messenger. Rivian and Lucid sell their EVs directly to the public. Every sale is a proper sale to an end user, an actual paying customer. Lease, finance, cash sale, doesn't matter, they get paid the money. Ferrari, McLaren and niche specialist ICE performance cars like Koenigsegg, they also sell their ICE cars direct to customers. Oh yeah, Tesla. No dealers, every single Tesla EV sale is made direct to the end customer, whether that's a private individual, a company or a leasing company. It's a genuine sale and Tesla get paid for it. How do we know they're reporting true figures? Well, Tesla releases their figures in a really easy to read form. They declare how many they manufactured in a period, how many they sold, and how many they registered. And it's really clear and open if they try any cons or to mislead. But also just look back on Auto Trader. There are new Teslas listed there, but every single one is an actual brand new car, non-pre-registered, and the website refers you to go to the Tesla order webpage where you'll be able to buy it yourself directly. Well, I'm putting the next one off as long as I can because I really don't know how to break the next one without a torrent of comments, anger and sheer abuse. Oh, go on, just say it. China. China also releases totally separate sales figures and registrations for all its manufacturers, including Tesla. This scandal appears to be limited to Western legacy auto manufacturers and actually covers all new car sales, including EVs, hybrids and ICE. Well, I have been saying this for a long time. Our sales figures are not true sales, as most are simply an internal transfer between the manufacturer and the dealer. And in some cases, they're even worse because the manufacturer will finance the sale of the car to the dealer, and probably on something like a 2-month payment-free finance deal operated by, yes, you've guessed it, the manufacturer's own finance division. Ford, for example. It runs Ford Finance. It's called Ford Motor Credit Company, LLC. Well, Ford Motors, a separate company, sells each car it makes to Ford Credit Company, LLC, a separate company, which leases it to the dealers who make the payments and pay the interest until that car sells eventually to a real customer. But they can never actually own the car because no matter how many payments they make, it's always just on a lease. It's an eternal lease. Does this also affect ICE car sales? Yeah, let's have a look on Auto Trader. Loads of them. Really easy to find a large number of brand new, openly advertised, pre-registered new cars, ICE cars with delivery mileage, and of course the sneaky, misleading ones where it doesn't say pre-registered or brand new, but obviously it is because it's a swapped out front number plate with something new on it, and the rear one, if you look in the photo gallery, is clearly visible. Why would they stop at EVs? Why not just lie about all the car sales, hybrids and ICE included? But why do they need to lie about ICE sales? They're supposed to be doing well, but that is actually the subject of another video in this series. You can probably guess it's not good news. Well, could this actually force governments across UK, Europe and America to cancel their 2035 bans on the sale of pure ICE cars? Well, spoiler alert for a future video, but yeah. But it's not going to help them. They all claim they want the 2035 ban on new ICE cars lifted as they blame that for killing their industry. but their sales figures have been in decline ever since the peak back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago. Sales today are nowhere near back up to where they were. And this is all pre-COVID. They can't even use that as an excuse. Initial findings are showing that cancelling that ban will do amazingly little. They think it will, it won't. Just think, we may well cancel a ban on new ICE cars after 2035. Europe might follow, but China, largest car market in the world, they've already effectively imposed that exact ban many years ago. And today, nobody in China is buying ICE cars anymore. It's all EVs, particularly not buying American or European ones. Many other countries have already passed the tipping point where EVs are simply the only way forward and ICE sales are in terminal decline. Norway, Sweden, they got no need to lift the ban. It won't make any difference at all. Nobody there buys ICE anymore anyhow. And most countries around the world are already rushing to rip out dirty polluting coal and gas-powered electricity generators to clean up the grid and their own environment. Does it make any sense for them to go back to making petrol-only cars or diesel-only cars? Well, if you want to see that one, subscribe so you don't miss it when we launch it. Well, because I'm sure that your auto industry knowledge is probably not the same as mine and your experience in motor trade not as extensive, and your mind might not work in the same analytical, maybe devious way that mine has been trained to do. Many of you might be thinking, oh yeah, it's just another Dieselgate. Yeah, might have known. Ooh, yeah, what a surprise. Not. Unfortunately, you are in this case a million miles away from seeing where this is heading. This story is only a tiny fraction told, because follow this through and you wander unerringly into the land of this actually is the end of the auto industry as we know it, and really very soon, not at some distant future date. Now, I'm well aware of clickbait titles and headlines, so before anyone accuses me of just setting up a future clickbait video, let me give you a taster of what that next video will include that should frighten you today. All of this pre-registering has already happened, right? This is not something in the future, it's happened, and it's happened with 2024 models in what appears to be huge numbers. But it only covers pre-registered cars that the manufacturer has already sold to the dealers, and it's the dealers who are pre-registering them. What about all the unsold, unregistered ones lined up outside the dealers? That's also a huge number. What will manufacturers do when their dealers just say, enough is enough? We cannot take another single car of any model until we get rid of some of those we already have in stock. And spoiler alert, they would have been bought at a much higher price than the discounted models that they are now advertising on Auto Trader, which, by the way, are also not selling even at those low discounted prices. So while it might be tempting to simply pre-register even more, they simply don't have the money to be able to do that, and they're not going to be able to sell them. Legacy Auto or their dealers will sooner or later be required to account for all these unregistered new cars, those pre-registered new cars and the backlog of unsold models dating back 2 or 3 years. Oh, by the way, just a quick question. Would you, as a customer, buy a 2022 brand new model with, say, 10 mile on the clock, it's been sat outside untouched for 2 years, when later this year you can get a brand new, made this month, all singing, all dancing, state-of-the-art, high-tech marvel, new Chinese EV for far less money? No, this story is serious, but it's only just starting. So you then look deeper at the countless headlines about EVs and their massive depreciation and calculated it's all a lie. A Vauxhall Corsa E was on sale at 34,000 versus the petrol at 19. Now on Auto Trader you can buy that same Corsa E also for 19. So the press, media, everyone else all screamed that Corsa E had lost almost half its value in less than a year. No, it hasn't. The manufacturer picked a totally fictitious figure out of the air. It was never going to succeed at that price. Well, this practice is rife in other industries too. Designer labels. How many of you ladies, or men, or wives and partners have snapped up the latest designer handbag because the list price is £1,756 and today only it's reduced by 70%. You can buy it right now, last one only, £527. Come on, You know you've done it. Did any of you actually believe that people once really paid the 1,756? And if you did that stop you? Well, the subject's huge, and I'm unearthing new data all the time. It will grow and grow. There will be massive impact on the price of both new and used EVs over the next few months and years. So my attention now is laser focused on that specific aspect of this scandal. What will happen to EV prices? Will your EV depreciate even faster? Where will the bargains be found? Are these Auto Trader pre-registered legacy models a bargain or merely a taster of what's to come? What am I going to do? Because I am actually looking to change. What should you buy now? What will depreciate the least? You don't want to miss these videos. Well, if you have liked this video, then please do give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, please consider joining the channel as a Patreon member and enjoy additional exclusive perks and features as I'm working on these follow-up videos that will explore these topics in a lot more detail. Not to mention, we also have regular videos covering the best EV charging prices to help you save money when you're driving your new EV. Well, thanks for watching. I'm Dave.